Okay, we have a quorum definitely, and it is 6:31, so I'll call the public hearing for supplemental assessment to sewer main extension number 5, the Orchards at East Lyme. And notice is hereby given that the East Lyme Water and Sewer Commission, the duly designated Water Pollution Control Authority of the town of East Lyme, will hold a public hearing via Zoom on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. regarding the supplemental resolution to sewer main extension number 5, known as the Orchards at East Lyme, for which a subdivision plan has been approved by the Planning Commission and which is on file with the town of East Lyme. Said portions being designated as Partridge Court and Arbor Crossing on a map or plan entitled Orchards at East Lyme, phase plan prepared for Prestige at East Lyme, Connecticut, July 17, 2006. Revision 12607, sheet 1 of 11, Gorrick Murrin, LLC, Civil Engineering and Land Surveying. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive and consider comments regarding the proposed assessment resolution and proposed assessments to be levied on the properties benefited by the sanitary sewer system of East Lyme listed on Schedule A here to attached. Okay, is there anyone that would like to address the commission under the public hearing? If you do, raise your hand, or you can see on the participant, you can put your hand up. Or if you're not on the camera, see, anybody? Anybody? Hold on, I got a couple more people to come in. Anybody at all? Last call.
Look like me.
Okay. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Siri,
Yes.
before we do that, we should probably make sure we have the notice and the proposed resolution as exhibits.
Oh. Okay. I mean, enter them into.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to enter the Exhibit A, which would be the supplemental assessment to supplemental assessment to sewer main extension number 5, the Orchards at East Lyme? Is there a motion to?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? And again, anyone wish to speak to under that public hearing? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing for the Orchards?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing for the Orchards.
Okay, made by Dave
Second, Steve.
and seconded by Steve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Now I'll move on to the public hearing for supplemental sewer assessment, Gdel residential gateway phase 2. Notice is hereby given that the East Lyme Water and Sewer Commission, acting as the town of East Lyme's duly designated water pollution authority, will hold a public hearing on March 23rd, 2021 via Zoom for the supplemental sewer assessment Gdel residential gateway phase 2 immediately after the public hearing to be held at 6:30 for the supplemental sewer assessments for sewer extension number 5, the Orchards at East Lyme, to hear comments regarding a proposed benefit assessment resolution to be levied on the properties benefited by the East Lyme sanitary sewer system listed on Schedule A here to attach. The public is invited to attend and be heard regarding the proposed benefit assessment resolution. A copy of the proposed assessment resolution has been filed with the town clerk and is available for inspection by the public. Is there a motion to accept this exhibit?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, moved by, Carol had the second, but who had the motion? Who moved it?
I did.
Steve. Steve moved it. Carol seconded it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Okay, is there anyone who wish to comment on the supplemental assessment for the Gateway Phase 2? Anyone? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for the extension of the sewer assessments, GDEL residential gateway phase 2.
Okay, moved by Dave and seconded by Steve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. I hope the rest of the meeting goes as quickly. Now we'll call the regular meeting to order, and all those, we'll pick one person to recite the Pledge of Allegiance so we don't have 12 of us doing it. So, Mr. Dave, you have the flag in front of you, so I'll let Dave recite so if we'll all stand or rise, put your hand over your heart while Dave says the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the flag. Holy God, I got a brain
Let's
dead.
try that again.
Yeah, get someone else. I got a brain dead now.
Okay, Steve, you want to do it for us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 23rd, 2021.
So moved, Steve.
Moved by Steve, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dave Bond, second. Any comments or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I will abstain. So,
Abstain.
whatever. I'm getting a call from Mr. Mingo. Let me take this real quick. Yes, Joe. Okay, thank you. Joe's not able to locate a Zoom link, so he will not be in attendance. Okay, is there anyone would like to address the commission under delegations? Here again, if you're going to be speaking under the billing adjustment request disputes, you don't have to speak now. We'll be giving you the opportunity to speak then. So is there anyone who would like to address the commission on another topic that's on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. First thing to do is we've had the 2 public hearings, and the next thing we'll do is to consider the adoption of supplemental sewer assessments to sewer main extension number 5, the Orchards at East Lyme. Brad or Ben, do you want to talk to this before we put a motion on and then vote on it?
Well, I think the last couple of meetings, we had presented this to the commission, and both of these, this first one here, the Orchards at East Lyme, is a kind of an ongoing process for levying sewer assessments in sort of an orderly fashion as each portion of the subdivision becomes accepted by the town, and that's where we are right now with Arbor Crossing and Partridge Court. Currently, that water main and sewer main, as well as the roads, are under consideration for acceptance by the town. And to coincide with that, the assessments have been levied. The values of the assessment, the 12,066 number, is the number we've been used to carry through the entire Orchard subdivision. Most of, actually, in this particular case, it's a little different than some of our other assessments, whereby a majority of these that were on the public hearing notice this evening have already paid. These are assessments that were as part of the property transaction with the developer. It gets covered in the closing. For the most part, most of these assessments have been paid, except for perhaps 6 or 7. I think that's where we stand here, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt for the adoption of the supplemental sewer assessments to sewer main extension number 5, the Orchards at East Lyme?
So moved, Steve.
We'll move by Steve. Carol, is that you on the second?
I'll second, yeah.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Okay, same thing under item number 5, Brad, for the adoption of supplemental sewer assessments for GDEL residential phase 2. Any comments there at all?
Just briefly on that, again, we've presented this to commission a meeting or two ago. And of course, as you know, this represents Gateway Phase 2. We had levied assessments on the land portions of this site some years ago. And then perhaps maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we levied assessments on Gateway Phase 1. And now that's been built out. Now, here we are, Phase 2 has been built out, and it's time to levy what we're calling the supplemental sewer assessment, just for the units that are being added to the property. So these units are what is the subject of this assessment tonight, and it's based on the original sewer assessment resolution going back to our original sewer construction, 1989, 1990. So the unit amount in that particular case was that $1,931.06 per unit. And this is a commercial assessment formula, whereas Orchards was a residential assessment formula.
All right, thank you, Brad. Is there a motion for the adoption of the supplemental sewer assessment for GDEL residential phase 2?
So moved.
Dave Murphy on the first. Is there a second? Is that Dave Zoller on the second?
Second,
Okay.
sure.
Any further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It carries unanimously. Moving on, we do have some billing adjustments. And Brad, under number 1, there's a few properties which don't require commission review by the commission, but did you want to talk to those at all briefly?
Yeah, I will just indicate that you do have that attachment A, which is related to this billing adjustment request for several properties here. The first 3 under Part 1, A, B, and C, they fall within our leak adjustment policy, and we were automatically able, under our administrative process, to make the calculations, make the adjustments, and take care of those. And there is some backup information that you're usually familiar with, which includes the 1 in 10 formula or form, as well as the gallon per day calculation, historical calculation that we use to arrive at those numbers. Part 2 is something that will require the commission's attention tonight. I suspect, I don't know who's on the Zoom call, but I have been talking to 2 property owners, I believe Joyce and George from 43 South Washington Avenue. They are listed as Part 2A, and then I have Mitchell property, 255 Main Street.
Right now, I don't believe George and Joyce Hannah are they? I don't see them present at all on the.
Are pretty sure? I know they were pretty insistent about joining in.
Okay, I don't see them on here right now.
Okay, well,
If that's the case, why don't we let George and Peter Mitchell go first, since they're already online.
oh, sure, yeah. So we can jump right into that. George, so you're there? If you don't mind, the commission has your documentation, the letters that you sent, and then have some information that I provided, but not nearly enough to really get into the weeds of it tonight. But just from your own words, if you could explain to the commission what you're looking for, so they can hear it.
Well, do you also have the video that I sent you of the leaks?
No, they do not have the video. I'm at home, unable to. I forgot to send that off to them, unfortunately. I can do that though.
But you saw it. I
saw the video, and there was in fact a leak. Yes.
I'm going to let my son, who's sitting next to me, he looks like me, so you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But
You look younger than him, George.
I think it's true.
I do. And but anyway, he wants to do it, and he's a member of the Mitchell Trust LLC, And I have to tell you this, he's also a lawyer, but he's not using
I'm
that.
not doing that here.
He's not doing that here. He's making the presentation for us.
Okay. So, yeah, and I'm Peter R. Mitchell, George's son. So, as Brad said, we have a video, and we just want to make it clear, like, what we're asking for is for the commission to adjust the bill to take into account what really was a leak. I mean, that caused a significant increase in the bill for several cycles. So, like, that's the framework. It's not like the Dunkin' Donuts that was in 255 Main Street, installed some artificial waterfall or something. There was a leak, and that was what caused the increase in the bills. Now, the problem is that there's this 60-day, to take advantage of the 1 in 10 rule, there is this 60-day window. And the problem that we faced is that we actually never got the bill. The bills for this property have been sent to the tenant for many years. And in this case, they were being sent to an office in Taunton, Massachusetts, a company called Westerly Management that was running billing for the Buttercup LLC, the Buttercup Connecticut LLC, which is the company that runs several Dunkin' Donuts in this area, still is running the Dunkin' Donuts at 209 Flanders Road and also the one at Henny Penny. And the town is actually still billing them in Taunton, Massachusetts for the 209 Flanders Road. But because of this arrangement that the town had, even though we pay 10 different water bills per cycle, we didn't see the bills on this. And the tenant was handling this, and again was being sent the bills directly from the town. So, and they're still in business. Like, their business on 209 Flanders Road is doing fine, and they have a great drive-through business that survived the pandemic. And their lease on Main Street ended, I think, mostly because they don't have drive-through ability there. But they're still running a business in town. They're still getting billed by the town, and they were the people who were receiving the bills. Now, they apparently did. They told us that they did approach the Water Commission to try to appeal this issue, and they were told that the Mitchell Trust was the entity that had to do it. So, this is the situation is, we never received the bill. We never received a notice. We never received a warning. We never received a termination notice. The water was never shut off. These are things like we're used to. And, we pay our bills on time, and certainly we would have noticed the change had we been apprised of it, but that didn't happen here. So we think that, like, this sort of even though we're being held responsible now, we've learned, we didn't even learn this. No one actually told us this directly. What happened was, we learned this kind of by accident. My father goes into town hall to pay all the bills, 10 different bills he pays at once. He wants to pay with one check. And the town then adds it up and makes sure that we've paid everything. And the clerk there said, oh, there was a lien. We put a lien on your property. That was how we found this out in November. We learned of this. We told the tenant. We approached the tenant. They were still a tenant then. Their lease had not ended. And that was when they said they were going to investigate it. Then they abandoned, investigate the appeal. They told us that they weren't going to do the appeal. And then their lease ended, and they're no longer in the property, even though they're still in town. So we have a situation like we were kind of deprived of the ability to correct it, adjust it, appeal. Then the town does have this rule that lets people appeal. We're being held liable, but we were never informed, and we couldn't really. There was no real way we could appeal. And so that's the situation. Again, going back, the appeal is meritorious. Like, I think there's no question that there was a leak and that was what caused this significant billing. So we think that because of this, because we weren't able to do an appeal the way we would have if there had been another property. If it had been to, an issue with another property, we should be allowed to have the benefit of the 1 in 10 policy going back to when this really very, very significant change was, first noted. And that's basically all we were asking for. No.
Okay, thank you. Brad, also before I open up the question, you mentioned to me today too that regarding the sewer part too, you had some information on that as well.
Well, there's a number of ways to look at this in terms of how you might calculate a potential relief to this bill. One is to look at how our 1 in 10 policy works, which is to, by way of calculation, reduce the water and the sewer, partial reduction for water and sewer. Or there's the other way to look at it, which is because this water didn't go into the sewer system, and being a commercial establishment, sometimes we look at these things a little differently. You could look at what is the historical average of just the sewer and say, okay, let's look at the relief on the sewer portions. Frankly, I've calculated it both ways. I did send out a bunch of emails to you guys at the 11th hour today because it just was a lot of information to try to get on paper and to try to come up with some sort of a coherent, consistent, with past practice type analysis here. So I did that to the extent I think we covered the bases, but and I don't know how deep you want to get into it tonight, but I'm willing to talk about those calculations if you want to consider that. But I can say that what they're referring to is the fact there were three billing periods, at least 3 billing periods where the water and the water usage, the leak was apparently going on in the order of 5,000 to 6,000 plus gallons per day. And so of those 3 billing periods, 2 were not paid by the Dunkin' Donuts, nor has the most recent bill for November 20 been paid. So we are talking roughly $39,000 and change that we have to, somehow come to some reconciliation on here. And so I did throw out some possibilities on how the commission may want to look at this, which we can talk about further. And I would only hope that some of the commission members have copies of what I sent along this afternoon, because it might make it a little easier. But if not, I'll just kind of walk you through what I did.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, Brad, you're talking about the 39,000. Where? I mean, I see the 32,883. I thought that was the
Okay. Yeah. Now there's a couple of packets of information. One is in your agenda package, and in that was the original thing I sent along without a lot of the calculations. But what that included was number one, Mitchell Trust LLC's application for the 1 in 10 leak adjustment application. Okay, they have that. Yep.
Okay.
And then there is a letter from George Mitchell, which kind of outlines what they've already talked about. And then there is a letter from Tomasic Plumbing, which verified that the leak was corrected, and it's dated January 7th, 2021. But in fact, the leak was actually corrected back in April of last year, and I think George can attest to that because we have some paperwork here that indicates that. And then we also have a bill which indicates $39,324.60. Okay. And then we have a plumber's bill for the repair. And then we have some preliminary calculations and historical information on usage and billing information that I sent along. But since then, I've taken it beyond that to actually go through the 1 in 10 calculation to try to come up with a couple of scenarios.
And you did say none of this water entered the sanitary sewer, correct?
That's correct, and we have a video that shows that. And the video was taken by the plumber, and the plumber, describes it, and there's indication that this thing was running for a long time. And George, if you're still listening there, it appeared, without having the video to share with the commission, it appeared that it was in where the water line comes up in sort of the slab section of maybe the front of the store or something like that, and then the water was just dropping down under the slab and out into the underlying soil. Is that how you see it?
Well, what it was a line that ran down inside the wall and then went under the floor to one of these islands that they had there where they served the coffee, and it fed the coffee machines and everything, all the water on the counter. But apparently right where it turned to go under the slab, that's where the leak was, and it was leaking right directly into the ground under in the wall, between the corner of the wall and the floor. And that's where the leak is, and I think that is shown very clearly in the video.
Mm-hmm. If you want me to just continue on talking here real quickly, I'll try to do this.
Go ahead, Brad.
Quickly. This is different in many ways because we're not just talking about one billing period. Normally when we do a 1 in 10 calculation, it's for one bill, and then we go back to comparable billing periods to get a historical average, and then we do our calculation, and we're all said and done. But this leak carried on through quite a long time. So if you don't have access to what I sent by email earlier today, I did a historical gallon per day calculation going back all the way to 2014. And what I did is I took the last 3 billing periods, minus the November one when the leak had stopped, November 20. And those range between 5,300 and 6,800 gallons per day. So I kind of looked at those 3. And then I said, well, the May bill of 2019 was paid by Dunkin' Donuts, okay? So then I started to look at just the last 2 high bills, which was the November 19 bill and the May 20 bill. And to get the historical average, I went back 3 years to come up with a historical average to give me more data to work with. And so I did come up with a historical average. I did some calculations, and I calculated it in 2 ways, like I said, just giving relief on the sewer for the 2 high billing periods, the most recently 2 high billing periods, and I calculated it using the 1 in 10 calculation, which gives a break on both water and sewer, but only in a partial sense. I did come up with adjustments downward in their overall money owed, ranging between $11,500 to $13,600, $11,594, depending on how you do the calculation. So that is my first stab at it. If everyone doesn't feel comfortable or has not seen all the information, I can suggest holding off to the next meeting so I can get this out to everyone so they can look at it. But I think one of the things George is looking for is the water's in fact actually turned off. Is that correct, George?
Yeah, only because we requested it. You got to understand that these people were out of business a year ago. They just shut down and left. And they actually paid their rent through the end of the, we made a agreement, gave them a break, and they paid their rent. Of course, they stuck us with a $40,000 water bill. But when I found out about the fact that we had, they hadn't paid their bill, and winter was coming and they weren't going to pay the bill, I asked that the water be terminated or turned off. And it wasn't the town that did it, and it wasn't the tenant that did it. I asked that the water be shut off so that we wouldn't have a freeze up, have more breaks and leaks and more wasted water.
Mm-hmm.
I would like very much to have the water turned on so we can negotiate a new lease with somebody to get that building back in operation. And that's the first order of business. But I would also like a consideration, not just the last period or the last two periods, but I would like to go back to where the leak actually developed. And that's easy to see when you look at the graph or whatever Brad's talking about, water usage on a daily basis. It jumped up back 4 periods ago, not 2 periods ago or 3 periods, it was 4 periods ago. And the former tenants there who sold the business to these guys, the Buttercup LLC, they paid the bill. And they paid it only because they were in the process of selling the place and they didn't want to screw up their deal with the Buttercup LLC people. You know, it gets complicated and there are a lot of other issues involved, but the main issue that we have is we don't want to be liable for something we had no control over and that we couldn't correct because we weren't notified in any way. And we have a right to get a bill for our property and we have a right to appeal, which if you don't give us this break, you're removing our right to appeal this situation. Thank you.
Okay, any comments? One of the things we could do is ask, one of the things I think, if we'd all like more chance to go back and look at information that we might not have a chance to review, at least allow the opportunity to have the water turned back on, because I don't think there's any question that, they're not acting in good faith and so forth like that. So, but what's the feeling on coming to a decision tonight?
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
George, no matter what the bill ends up being, who's going to pay this bill? Are you going to go back after Are you going back after Buttercup for the money?
No. Look, we're responsible to pay the water bill. I guess it's a law, a town ordinance, or whatever it is. We will pay the water bill. We want a fair water bill. We'll pay it. We want the adjustments made. We want some of the penalties and interest removed that don't apply.
But
And we'll pay it promptly. We'll pay it right away. If we think the bill is fair, we'll pay it, and then we'll go after them. If we have to take them to court, we'll do that. But
the thing is, asking for go back 4 cycles is going to be hard. Because we've done this numerous times, and commercial's a little different than residential. And if let's just say we agree to do the 1 in 10 or what Brad has proposed, if you go after, what are you going to go after them for? The whole 30,000 or the
bill is whatever the bill is.
Okay. All right. Is there any contingency that, what's a fair number to you guys for us?
I was an engineer. I was pretty good in math. I did the gallons per day, and we had a average before the leak of about 850 gallons per day. You even said it was less than that, but I'll settle for 850. Everything over that for the last 4 periods went into the ground, and it comes out to $30,000.
Well, there is a question about how far back can we really go? It gets blurry as you go back, and this is what the commission, I need to share. If they haven't seen all that information, I think that's actually where it gets a little dicey, is what is the historical average that should be used to plug into the formulas?
Well, I tried to go
too far because, a lot of things change. You have different, I don't know if these owners were the same owners that were there back in 2015. Are their use habits differently? So I think we'll probably, perhaps you and I have to sit down and look at this a little more closely, if you don't mind.
I will be very happy to go over it with you. But you also have the place on 209 Flanders Road, which has a higher volume, and they kept that going because they had the drive-in window, which we couldn't give them in Niantic, and they just abandoned our property. But the Flanders Road is a good indication of what the usage should be.
Well, and then too, George, it cost us X amount per gallon to produce water. So, I mean,
We're not
okay.
asking for the water that you produce. We're asking for the water that never went into the sewer system.
Yeah,
That's what
no,
we
all
want.
right,
to break
I
up.
agree. All
All
right,
right, why don't we, a
Brad,
couple issues.
question?
Who has their hand up? I didn't see. Dave, Jake.
In that total of the 40,000, how much of that is late fees and penalties and whatnot?
Oh, I
couldn't find it.
there's a considerable amount, but we would, that is something we could look at. I haven't added all that up, Dave. So I don't know off the top of my.
I didn't take that into
But you
consideration.
can actually look at that on what I sent, the billing history is there. You can see all the penalties right there. I just haven't added it up.
I would be very happy to meet with Brad at his convenience and go over and make, and if we agree on the adjustments, you will get your money on the spot, and we'll go after these guys for the bill. That's what we're asking for. That's what we want.
Roger.
I make a motion, we table this till next month until we can
Okay.
put all the information together.
Okay, a motion to table precludes any further discussion until we see if is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of, it takes a 2/3 to table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we've tabled this, and Brad, I'll let you work with George and come up with, some costs and options for the commission at the next meeting.
Yep,
In the
yep,
meantime,
absolutely.
in the meantime, turning the water back on, will that be a problem if he wants to get it back on?
Well, it's George's word that everything's gonna be good on that, and I don't see any reason why not,
Okay,
yeah, so,
because here again, obviously, he is interested in resolving this, and
yeah.
it is a rental place that he'd like to market, and, without water, it makes it very difficult.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you, George.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for
All right.
everything.
Okay,
Very
we'll be
good.
talking.
Talk to you.
Now we'll skip backwards a little bit. We have George and Joyce Hanna that would like to address us on the similar type of an issue. Brad?
Yes, Joyce and George, they're in fact on the call now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, we're here.
we're here.
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are
you? Nice to see you.
Well, 43 South Washington. Now, the commission does have before them in their packet everything you have, and there's my letter, my email to you, which they have a copy of. So now addressing the commission, I'm going to let you, in your own words, just kind of lay out what your concerns are directly with the commission, and then we can go from there.
Well, I think I don't know what quarter this is or how to, it's the period that, went from 8/30/19 to 3/2/20. And when we got the bill or the usage, it was 84,000 gallons of water. During that time period, we've been, or Joyce's family, I should say, have been residents or summer residents for 62 years. When we looked at the previous bill, which was for the same time period, we thought, the usage was only 2,000 gallons. 84,000 gallons is enough to, I think, fill 6 swimming pools. So when we saw that, we immediately called up the water department, and they said to at least go in and start to check to see if there was a problem. So when we went back down, now normally I shut off all the water before we leave, even though I do leave the heat on because this is now a year-round house. It's not just a summer home. And I checked the toilets. I put dye in. I checked all over. I had other people from Niantic, people that we use as handymen, that came in to look around. And I would have thought at least it's my impression, not being a plumber, or we would have thought that there would be some evidence of that much water being used. And I obviously understand that it was going through the meter, but for the life of me or us, I can't explain what happened. And then we talked with Brad, and he's been very helpful. And and I think we wound up changing out the meter. And I guess when they tested the meter, they said the meter was all right. I don't know whether that means could it have gone awry and then been all right, or and that explains it, because it's inexplicable to us as to where that usage came from with no evidence of damage. And then it seems, I guess, the 1 in 10, the statute says that if you can't find, some reason for the leak, there's no relief. And I find that, I guess if we said there was a leak, would there have been relief? I don't know. We were just trying to get to the bottom of it and explain why we had such a large bill. Now, I know Brad went back and looked at the usage, and it's all been the same now. I know the outside water I constantly shut off since I've been going down there for 50 years before we got married, because I knew that it would freeze if we didn't do that. So we've tried to observe everything, in the way to make sure the water isn't on when we leave and it's shut off at the meter, but I can't explain why this is. And I guess I'm asking why there is no relief if neither you nor I or Joyce and I can explain this, and it's so out of character with what our bills are. It doesn't seem quite, I guess to me, equitable in that manner, unless I could prove what happened. It did happen. I can't say why it happened, whose fault it was, and yet here we are with a huge bill.
We checked the toilets. We have 4 toilets in our house, and we're told that the probability is that there was a leak in the toilets. 2 of them are not used at all in the winter. If there was a leak in the toilets going through, and we do check the house periodically, and a leak of this size, you would hear it. You would hear something, and we never heard anything. And if it was a small leak, we wouldn't have had this volume of usage. And since we've, after that, when we opened the house, since that point, and we've had numerous people, we've had 6 children in the house for almost 2 weeks, there was never an issue with a toilet leaking or a sticking any place.
Sticking valve. And it would seem that, and I don't know again because I'm not that versed in it, well, if it happened once, would it happen again? Is it self-correcting? I don't know. It just doesn't seem to me. But as Joyce said, if we're down there at any time during the off-summer months, and certainly last summer.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. We stayed down there longer because it just made more sense not to come back to Massachusetts, because it was actually safer down at the beach, and we were just staying at the house. But even then, nobody is upstairs. It's 2 zones and it's 2 everything. So we normally just live on the first floor. So I can't explain it. And I guess I just don't understand why there wouldn't be any relief in this situation, just because neither one of us can prove what happened.
Brad.
David?
No, I was just gonna ask Brad, so with the 1 in 10, the only thing is too, is that if we do the 1 in 10, and it happens again, you won't qualify for it again.
That's
I
right.
understand that,
All right.
but I guess in 60 years, nobody's ever gone there to ask for, any rebate for their, for the water bill. I mean, it's only been in the family, so, I mean, I don't know. Other than that, I understand the rule, and the rule is the same here in our own hometown. It's the same thing. You can ask once, and even if you identify it, and they may, make an abatement on your bill, but if it happens again, you don't get the same thing.
Evan?
It's not available to you.
Dave, James?
For the period in question, was the house occupied? It sounded like it might be seasonal at some point.
It is seasonal. We'll go down 2-3 times a winter. We were just down there last weekend, and we were down there in January. We were supposed to go in February, but there was the snowstorm. So we do go and we walk to the house. We walk upstairs and check that. But we're not there for most of the winter. We're not there. We just go check.
The house is alarmed.
When the period when this occurred, for the most part, you weren't there.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, the period starts at 8:30, so we were there probably through the middle of September. At that point, we were going on weekends for the most part, long weekends.
So do you turn the water off every time you leave the house during the winter time?
Yes. And now I'm shutting it off at the
Both places.
both places. I shut off at the regular pipe,
Sure.
and then I shut it off at the meter also.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions for George or Joyce? Dave, Steve?
Yeah, actually, it's for Brad. We're pretty confident that the meter is working 100% properly.
Well, I would have to say yes for 2 reasons. One of the reasons why this took so long to sort of come to a conclusion on is because we wanted to keep the old meter in to see if, in fact, it would start, quote unquote, normalize, if the usage would sort of self-correct. And, after that one incident, using with the old meter, the usage did come back down. I mean, it was 454 gallons per day under that particular billing period. Then it went down to 140 per day, and then 85 per day. It didn't appear as though the meter was, and prior to that, the numbers were 10 gallons per day, 162, 11, 58. So all kind of within the same ballpark. That's why I call it normalized. And then we eventually said, okay, I think we have enough data. We'll take the meter out and we'll have it tested. So we took the meter out and we put in a new iPearl, which they have now. And we brought that for testing, and the reports included in your packet. And actually, we found that the meter was reading accurately at mid to high flows, but at the low flows, it was actually under registering. So it was, and that's typically what happens with an old positive displacement meter. They just essentially slow down. They don't generally speed up. So it was difficult to come to any conclusion.
Do they now have one of the brand new meters in there?
They do. Yes, they do.
So that would.
But we haven't taken we haven't taken a reading since then. Since we for the May bill we will.
But if there was a future issue, we would be able to see it as well now.
We would be able to see it in real time practically. Every day we can query a high usage bill, and we can ultimately let the customer know, before
Okay,
something like this.
so Brad, in the future, it wouldn't be that kind of time period. If there was
Right.
a spike in the usage, then we would be notified by email or a phone
Right,
call.
we will know that because it'll be computerized to the extent that that data will
Oh,
come
that's
back. to the
terrific.
central
That's great.
system.
Mr.
That's
Mingo,
great.
you have your hand up. Joe,
Pardon?
you're muted. There you go. Joe, can anybody else hear Joe?
No,
No,
No.
We can't hear you, Joe.
I
maybe,
can't read lips.
can he call you?
very faint.
Never
Yeah.
mind.
Okay, we can't hear you, Joe.
Brad, and,
Yeah.
and just, I was just doing some bumping up and down, looking at the things, and, the bills are, fluctuate quite a bit, but I see back in quite a period of time ago, like, 07 and 08, we had some 60,000, periods. And of
Yeah,
course,
I didn't go back
those
that
were the
far, but what changed, that's perhaps a question,
Definitely.
Brett, you're,
Yeah, it just seems strange to me that, we were keeping some averages, like during the summer, it looked like they were someplace around 18, 20, and sometimes 28,000 gallons. And then you get down here and during a winter time period I guess that was August billings, you had 69 and 62, which were a summer bill, but you still had some really spiked bills down there. So I'm just seeing that we're seeing sometimes that was a little bit crazy in the whole overall picture.
The house was built in 2006. So,
That would,
yeah.
right.
So I don't recall. I would have picked up if there was a major
Yes.
bill.
I don't know why that wasn't.
Yeah, well, this was in August of 2007 and in August of 2008, where you had like 69 and 62,000 gallons.
Is that through August or is it August to
No.
March? I guess I
From
don't
March to
understand.
August.
It's through August, and the billing cycle ends on August 20th.
Yeah.
All right, I could understand that
Yeah.
maybe
Because we have 3 grown children and grandchildren. So they were.
maybe they were there. I mean, if we didn't question the bill with that usage, I would have assumed that
We could justify
that in our own minds, it was certainly probably correct given the kids around, but
Yeah.
the 84 during that period, and I guess I don't know if there's any large spikes like that afterwards is so uncharacteristic of.
We must have been watering the lawn a lot, and I don't remember
I don't
exactly.
recall. Could have been.
Because we had sod then.
Yeah, we might have had sod,
Sod.
and we didn't have a sprinkler system, so I was probably
Watering the land.
lawn a lot to try
Yeah.
to keep it growing. That's the only thing I could think of, or we
Yeah.
could think of.
Okay. Any other
Just a
comment? Oh, I'm
quick
sorry. Go ahead.
question, you
Go
don't
ahead.
have a sprinkler system anymore? You have a
We
different
never had
type
one.
of landscape?
We never had one to begin with.
Okay. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, is there anyone that would like to entertain any action on this?
Well, Brad, you didn't develop any numbers for the 1 and 10 then?
Yeah.
No, I didn't develop a number for well, actually, no, I did not. Because it didn't really fall into it.
Right.
I could very easily do that.
Could you do that for the next meeting, Brad?
I can do that.
Okay, so there's a request then to have Brad come up with a 1 in 10 adjustment for the commission to look at the next meeting. So that means we will revisit this next. So is there a motion to table?
I'll move to table this item until next
Steve
meeting.
motions to table.
second it.
Seconded by Dave Murphy. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we'll table this and revisit it again once Brad comes up with some calculations next month.
I just have a question. Do we have to attend the next meeting?
You don't have to, that's strictly voluntary.
Okay,
All right.
because we may not be here.
Okay.
I will be in touch
We've
with
heard,
you.
I think everyone had a chance to ask you the questions and so forth. So anyway, you do not have to, we can still do it without you present.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to us and hearing us out.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
George.
Thanks,
Yes.
Brad. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on, approval of bills. We have a few to do.
Yeah, I'll move approval of Bill 1A for tie-in bond 17,923.66 for well 1A and 6.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, who seconded?
David Zoller.
David Zoller, okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I have to abstain.
Okay, Mr. Bond abstains. Moving on, next one.
Approval of Bill 1B for RH White for well 1A and 6 for 487, 401.72.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Dave Zoller seconded again. Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Carol?
Is this the contractor where we had the issue about some bolts not being tightened and then we had to, Brad, you know, that we
Yeah.
talked about it? Is
Well,
the-
no, it's not. It was time bond. It was time bond
Um,
invoice, but it is the contractor, contractor's work that was in question.
So was there any extra, is any of this money connected with that error that happened?
No. The only money connected to that was what was reflected in time bond's invoice of a month or two ago
Okay,
for Frawley's review.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried.
I have to abstain again.
Dave has to abstain too. Okay, moving on, we're under 4 for Natick Pump Station upgrades. Dave, Steve, you want to do that?
Approval of 4A for Natick Pump Station upgrades for Weston and Sampson, 18,800.
I'll
Moved by-
second that.
And seconded by Dave Zoller. Any comments or questions on this one?
I can provide some comment if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, this bill, just so everyone understands, this is the final bill for that project that we have been working on for several years now. And that's where we had Weston and Sampson come in to do a design build on the Niantic pump station, the 2 pumps, and some controls and all of that. And so, as you know, there was a somewhat trying experience. We had a long wait time on some valves. We also had some vibration concerns and all of that. But the reason why we were holding payment on this was because there was a couple of things that was still left to be done by Weston and Sampson. So they completed those things. And then ultimately that's what we have here for a bill. And on back side of that bill, which is in your packet, you'll see a summary of the whole project. Just so you kind of understand where this project ended up, it might be useful to quickly review it. And you'll see that ultimately we ended up $5,700 to the good, all said and done. there was a subtraction from the cost for the vibration analysis, which the commission approved $5,000, but it only came out to be $1,295. And we also did get $7,000 back from the valve vendor, which shows up in that summary. So all in all, we ended up about $5,700 to the good there.
Okay.
But this project is over with. This is the final bill, and just want you to know that.
Okay, great. Any questions for Brad? Comments?
A quick question, Brad, what was the vibration?
The vibration still hasn't been completely resolved, Dave. The vibration is still within spec on all of the testing that's been done. So we're living with it. We had the vibration study done. It passed. We had the previous studies done by the vendor of the pumps. All were within tolerances.
Okay.
So then we even had Weston and Sampson come out, which was part of why we didn't pay them. We had to come out and put stiffener plates on the pedestals of the frames for the pumps. And that all looks good. But it still didn't really improve the vibration. So we're okay. Everything seems to be status quo. The plan here is that you may know that we are at some point going to do some pretty large renovations at both Niantic and Patagonia. And what we think this vibration is due to is much more of an inherent problem with these particular pumps and the way they connect into the existing suction piping from the wet well. So there's going to be some modifications to the suction piping at some point in time when we get into the project, and we think that is what will ultimately resolve the vibration. But the vibration is all within tolerances.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
Is this working now?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, we hear
yes,
it
we can
now.
hear you, Joe.
I have a question for you on the vibration. Is this vibration doing any damage to the building, or to other structures?
No.
Absolutely not. Because there's a way to cancel a vibration out electronically, so it doesn't do any damage to anything.
Okay. But you've said, Brad, there's no
Well-
damage at all? Okay.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion to pay the bill, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, carries unanimously. Moving on, our finance director report. Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So as you'll know, the cash balances in water, sewer, and sewer assessment funds continue to remain healthy. In looking at the, year-to-date revenues, expenditures, everything seemed to be in line with prior year trends. In the month of February, on the water side, we made a payment to the City of New London for interconnection fees. And then on the sewer side, there were a couple of expenditures that were made from the contingency account that are noted for you. That's just kind of like a brief highlight if anyone has any questions.
Questions for Anna? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to update on delinquent water and sewer bills.
Yeah,
Brad, is
that's
that
me.
you?
No, it's me.
Okay.
Something got sent. I brought up the two not only delinquent sewer assessment last month and the water sewer bills, and I'm just trying to give you guys a little update. Do I have the ability to share my screen, Kevin, or no?
Yeah, I think I can do. Hold on.
I think I just did it.
Yep, there you go. I just did something, so.
So in your guys, something that Brad sent out just this afternoon. So if you haven't seen it, you don't have to really dive too much in it. But one of the things the commission was looking for is, we have, so this is sewer assessment right now. We still have $454,000 in back sewer assessments. But one of the things they asked, well, how long has it been since these people have paid? because if it's been in the last year, it's been a tough year, so we don't want to kind of go after it. But so what this is basically saying is out of the 454, that's a lot of money. If you go down to the bottom, let me see here, the bottom right here, only the last 4 have been in the last year, and 225.20 last year, we can give them the benefit of the doubt that was the start of COVID. Everything else, these people just aren't paying. And there's, if you see a bunch of these, 96,000, which that's something we have to address. The never paid's 27. So my only question on the sewer assessments is just getting the verification from the commission. But I think we should probably get the attorneys involved to start going after these people, because that's a lot of money, and a lot of these people have no intention of paying. So so long as everyone's good with that, that's what we'll do. But it just shows an order of magnitude is, almost $500,000, and it's only about 9, 10, maybe 12,000 of the 454 is people that haven't paid in the last year. Everyone else hasn't paid, going on a few years now, and that we have to go after. So I'm just giving everyone a heads up, because just like George Mitchell had said before about being leaned, anytime you lean a property, people get kind of sensitive.
Yeah. Question is for Mr. Zamarka, something that goes back to 94, is that something that we have basically too late to go back after, Mark?
To be honest with you, Mr. Siri, I'd have to check.
Yeah, because I know there's the statute of limitations on lots of things, and
bad
debts or so forth. So.
Yeah, 94 might be a little far afield. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 96,000 is a lot of that is just from, because it's so long ago, was all the fees that have been developing over the years.
Right.
It'd probably be a typical assessment of 13 or whatever that amount is, and the rest would just be interest and all the fees.
Okay. So Joe, one thing, if it's an ongoing account, potentially that can help with the statute of limitations. I don't know when the last time this account was active.
I don't think it's ever been active, but that we certainly can work with Attorney Zamarka. I just this is more just as an update to the last meeting of just following up of how far some of these have been back. The second is just a quick little summary. I think last time I want to say it was about 400,000 that was owed in water and sewer bills, and we're down to about 284, which is a good sign. But 170, so that's 329 accounts. 174 of those accounts have made partial payments in the last year, and they very well could have payment plans and some of that. But there's 155 of these accounts haven't paid in over a year, at $190,000. Now, granted, one of them is Mr. Mitchell, so we can take that out of the amount. But it is a sensitive time. We could certainly lien these properties again, or making sure everything's lean. But what the method that we've used effectively in the past to get these people into compliance is shutting them off. And just want to make sure from the commission standpoint, with everything happening with COVID, that the commission is comfortable with. I'm not sure if it needs a vote, if we can get some opinion from the commission, because that is the way that you typically get these people to pay is maybe you just send out one more shut-off notice on the 155, and we schedule the shut-offs, because as soon as you start shutting off, they come running in the door to pay, or else they don't have water. So we haven't shut off properties in about 3 years. This is the last time we shut off.
Question.
So any feedback on having shut off, Steve?
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100%. We should pursue it. What is the, when we issue a letter of that we're going to shut them off, how much time do we give them?
I mean, we can be sensitive. It's March right now. Typically, we haven't. In the past, 3 years ago, I think we started doing shut-offs in like April sometime. So to answer your question, I would give them 2-3 weeks at least. That, if we're not paid by, say 3 weeks, just to be on the safe side, then we reserve the right to shut you off. And, it might not be on that 3 weeks to the exact day, but anytime after that, they're running the risk of us shutting them off.
But
what's that?
These 155 accounts, they're still actively receiving water and sewer use.
Oh, they're all on, except George. I mean, I only bring his name up because I didn't name in vain or something like that. But it was acknowledged that his property was shut off, and of the 190,000, what I think his bill was in the 30,000s or something like that, but
That's still a big chunk of money.
that's a big chunk of money, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Okay.
I just, if we go start shutting off and then it gets back and it's on social media and the commission's like, what are you doing? It's COVID. I want to make sure the commission's on board that, I think anyone that hasn't paid it in over a year, we should go after. Anyone that's within the last year, we could certainly work with these people, still tell them, give them notices that they're overdue. But, you know, we want to recoup this $284,000 as best as we can.
Okay, any other questions? I've only got a couple. Go. Whoever wants to
I have
talk.
a comment, and I think if we do, you know, start sending out additional letters, because we are still in the pandemic situation, I think we'd have to develop some kind of mechanism that if somebody is having a special hardship because of the pandemic, that would put them in another category. I almost think we have to consider something like that.
Well, that's something the commission would really need to give us guidance on. But again, the ones that we were talking for the shutoff letters would be people that haven't paid since before the pandemic. So even though they might be affected by the pandemic, they had no anticipation of paying us before that. I mean, we're talking people that haven't paid back before February 2020.
Mr. Mingo.
What I want to know is why is this all of a sudden being brought forth to the commission? It goes back so far. We've been kept in the dark all these years?
Well, Joe, we shut off 3 years ago. Last April, I wasn't going to shut people off in the middle of the pandemic. And so it wasn't all these years. It was actually, the only time was 2019. I think the last time we shut off was in 2018. And I'd have to look back at the records, but it might not have been that bad. Some of these people might have been paying, but this hasn't gone back. It's just some of these bills are just totaling up. And some of these accounts, I'd have to look specifically, but we've been trying to shut people off and we did that back in 2018.
Once again, what's the job of the commission here? We should have been made apprised of this a long time ago.
I'm making you apprised of it right now.
You know, why do we have a commission?
I don't know what you want to say on it.
Joe, it's been brought to, I mean, we can say that, you know, the thing is, it's been brought to us forward now too. And to be honest with you, Joe, in the last year, we wouldn't have done anything anyway. But, you know, and plus, I think.
Who made that decision?
About, you know, let's, you know, move forward now. We can't turn back the clock. Let's move forward from now and try to recoup whatever we can.
Joe, I have a question.
Please.
The heading on this list says delinquent sewer assessments. Is that what it is? That's what these numbers represent, or is that?
Yeah. The first page. The first page is just sewer assessment, and the 3 lines it says water sewer bill. So that's the usage bills. The other one is the assessments. Two separate animals.
Okay.
Joe, could you explain a little bit on the comment side on the delinquent sewer assessment? Example, should be paid in full by, you know, some period in the future. Is it that they're not making their partial payments?
Yeah, they're just not. It should have been paid by that date, and there's been no payment.
And even the ones that should be paid in full, say by 2024, they're not making any attempt to make whatever monthly payment they're supposed to be making. Is that correct?
Correct.
And those are, Joe, those are yearly, right? A yearly assessment for the sewer assessment of whatever it was, $1,000 or whatever it was per year.
Well, so this is the thing, and maybe this answers Mr. Mingo's question, is in the past with sewer assessment, you can't shut off. So all you can do is lien. And that's what all these properties have been liened, and we have liens. So it's always been my understanding, and correct me, and if it was wrong to do this, that if we had liens on these properties, then at some point they would sell their properties and we get our money back. But the next action is attorney action, costs the commission money, but whatever the attorneys, and Mr. Zamark is on here now, but can help us do the legal action. That's the only difference that with this list is some of these people paid. They're all liened, so we have protections, but liens doesn't get you anything if they don't sell the house for another 20 years. So we're at the point, and in the time that I've been here, it's coming up in 8 years, we've never had attorneys go after people. And maybe with Mr. Mingo's question, maybe we should have. So if that was a wrong move that we did it, but with everything else going on, we knew we had a lien on these sewer assessments. You can't shut off. But on the water usage side, we've used the mechanism of shutting off, and that's the best way to get people to pay is to say you're going to shut it off. You can't do that with a sewer assessment.
Yeah, so we're talking about two different items here. The sewer assessments, the 480,000, those are liened properties. The only thing you could do is try to foreclose on a property. And I mean, we'd have to pick a date. Say, okay, anybody over 5 years delinquent, is that worth spending the money with the lawyers? That's something we'd have to address. But then the $290,000 is, that's just delinquent water and sewer bills, correct? And
Yeah,
those should be shut off notices.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because there's a huge distinction between the sewer assessment and the water and sewer bills. The water and sewer bills, this is not stuff that people haven't paid for 30 years, 20 years. This could be just from 2 years back, but some of these people have, especially some of these businesses might have $15,000, $20,000 bills. So we're trying to get all this stuff in. We have the ability to, but anytime you start going, especially coming out or in a pandemic, to say that you're going to shut people off, whether it's a business or something like that, there's a sensitivity to it. On the sewer assessment, we can go through the attorneys and start, I don't know even what the mechanism, we could talk to Mr. and Ms. Marco offline, but if that's what the commission wants us to do, we're gonna have to come after them with an attorney and figure out what that is, have that attorney cost, and I'm assuming that attorney cost could be transferred on to the people that owe the sewer assessment, but there's all that legal side, and that's especially in light of the person that's been doing all our sewer assessments, Jeannie Niskanen. She's 79 years old. She's on the verge of retiring. I'm trying to make sure all this stuff is all buttoned up before she retires. So she's been giving me this list, and we really need to kind of get this money back. Yes, Mr. Mingo.
Some of these, especially the restaurants, have gone through a miserable time with this pandemic. Can we get some stimulus money, perhaps, to reimburse the water and sewer for these individuals?
We could ask. I have no idea.
Okay, Joe, Joe, there is under the American Rescue Plan, there are various things that we wouldn't apply for, but there's things I'm looking at some paperwork right now, and it's, it gives businesses and so forth to apply for stuff like that. But here again, we're still waiting for the whole, layout and spread out of the American Rescue Plan to see who's available for what. We know we're not even sure what, we've been told some of the areas we have some availability, but, the specifics haven't been quite laid out to us yet. So, any other comments on the?
I have just a question in terms of is the only alternative in terms of foreclosure type actions, or is it possible that if we worked through an attorney to have something on some type of a contingency where if we got a certain percentage, the firm bringing in the money, and that the compensation for legal is more on this kind of a contingency basis than?
Well, I don't know if what you're insinuating is like going to a collection agency and getting them
that sounds like
to
a
go
collection agency more than
Yeah, okay. I just
mean,
pointed out, but yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, some of these people, there's a bunch of never pays, and I know Mr. Mingo brought up why they bring it. It's just because we have liens on these people, and we're not sure what the next step. But I guess we should go the next step, which is go after them and foreclose or do whatever the attorneys say to do. But that's a rough thing in this time. But there's $450,000 sitting out there.
Joe, maybe we can talk, something, work offline, come up with some type of a schematic to say, okay, at what point and what value do you go after people? If it's, something like that. I'm really glad that you've identified this, though, because this is the starting point. Now we realize how much is out there, and next step will be to come up with a plan to how do we approach to try and get it back short of possibly foreclosure or just waiting for them to sell their property.
All right,
One-
now we
one
gotta
other-
just, now you gotta talk about the delinquent water and sewer. How are we gonna do this? We just gonna give them 90 days, and if you have a hardship, which you gotta fill out, do we have any kind of hardship form or something for people that are delinquent? No?
You know,
we don't, we
at this
don't have a
point,
specific one.
Joe, just at this point, a hardship at this point, we're emerging from COVID. Maybe let's wait till we get a little further out of this before we start making some type of decisions of at what point do we shut off or delinquent, because there's still a lot of people hurting, and that might last for a little bit even once the numbers go down.
So it's my understanding that from what I'm getting from the commission, that when it comes to the water and sewer use bills, do not shut off. Just keep sending overdue letters, but the threat of shutting off is obviously tough, but it does get the best results. So it sounds to me like we don't want to go there.
That's not necessarily, do we have to bring this to a vote? Because that's not necessarily everyone's opinion, I believe.
I don't know. I think that, if you send the letter out to them, tell them you're gonna shut them off, and if they got extenuating circumstances.
They can prove a hardship.
They can come in
prove
in
a
front of the,
hardship and get them into some kind of a payment plan to pay what they owe us.
or you could even tell them they can come in front of the commission with a hardship.
We do honor payment plans as far as we try to get people to work for, and anyone that is in a payment plan is in these 174 accounts. So we'll put together a letter, we'll send it out there, we'll say that we could, and you can always reserve the right to do shutoffs and you don't do it. But if you get serious with people, at least if they have a hardship, they can come to us and we'll work with them. How's that?
Joe, have you ever sent out, or when was the last time you sent out these letters, or do you do it on a frequent basis, like a hardship,
Well, if the bill,
or not
like in
hardship, but
are you talking in the past or in this cycle? Because their bills were due on November 1st. In December, they got an overdue letters, and then they got another letter in January that said that they had to pay by the end of February or else. And now we're in March.
or out? So sending out another letter is just going to be sending out something we've already done before.
Oh, absolutely. It's waste of
So in
postage.
the letter that you sent out before, you didn't stipulate a period of time until they would be shut off, did you?
We didn't say the word shut off in it.
Well, yeah, it's time to say shut off and give them a certain amount of time, in my opinion. We can take this to a vote, but just to say that we're not going to do anything but be said because of COVID, I don't think is necessarily the right way. And also, giving them an opportunity to plead hardship is just opening the door for every one of those 155 and to start pleading, hardship. If they really have a hardship, whether we say that they're entitled to plead their case or not, they're going to plead their case if they truly have a hardship. So putting that into a letter will just prompt them to find a hardship, whether they have one or not. I think we stipulate a time now and say, you have X number of weeks or a month or 2 months, and if we don't have any positive action on their part, we will shut off.
Well, also remember that their next bill's going out May 1st. So if we stretch the amount of time that they need to pay it too far out, seeing that we're at March 23rd right now, they have another bill due in 5 weeks. So it's always a struggle because you want to get the money back, but you'd hate to always use we could try to send a letter out, but it's a tough time. So we just don't want to be accused of either
Joe,
way.
do you have to send out prior to shut off? Do you have to send out a certified letter?
We haven't.
Return receipt or anything, or just?
That's a lot of
In many cases, we do a door knocker.
Okay.
I have a suggestion. If none of the letters thus far have actually referenced shut off, maybe the next letter should talk about the risk of shut off as opposed to a date certain or something like that, and encourage them to make contact to develop a payment plan. But maybe strengthening the letter.
we can do something to get it in. The only thing I'm worried about right now, being March 23rd, is like what I just brought up, is in 5 weeks, they owe another. So we send these things out, you got to pay this bill in 4 weeks, and all of a sudden they have another bill. So they're going to get another bill in May anyways. It's or end of April in like 4 weeks. That's going to basically tell them. So we could just roll with that, and then maybe after that bill, if that bill hasn't paid, then we'll come after them hard. It just we're just caught in the middle of billing cycles right now.
You know, I'm
But
looking
that
at,
may make more sense seasonally too, because of, that the shut off would come in the summer.
Yeah.
Joe,
When
just
they
looking at the
continue to-
American Rescue Plan handout here, there's a couple things, helping Americans stay in their homes. There's assistance to help people keep up with utility costs. Doesn't say what utility, it could be water and sewer. And then there's also a temporary assistance for needy families, to help deal with the crisis. So there are resources for people. And, I don't know if we want to maybe wait till you can specify that, but Dave does make a good point. You always worked with people. I mean, if people make some effort, pretty much they're never shut off. But, if they're making no effort at all, at some point in time, we have to.
I have one other comment. In terms of the delinquent sewer assessment list, perhaps a priority in terms of getting the attorney involved would be the never paids. In other words, it seems like there's a subset within the larger group that's made no effort.
We could do that. All right, I got some feedback from the commission, so we'll try to push these things forward
Joe,
as best we can.
And Joe, thanks for getting us together, at least for a starting point. So.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, moving on, SCADA system equipment for the new PD building, discussion and possible action.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I'll speak to that. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. As you know, I've been working a lot with integrated control systems on a lot of different projects, either SCADA or instrumentation upgrades on water and sewer. And I'm bringing this one before the commission because it mainly regards sewer and the alarm service that we currently enjoy at the old dispatch. I'm going to call it the old dispatch center, even though it's the current center. So as you know, the public safety building is moving, and that instrumentation that we have that takes the radio signals from all the pump stations and alerts dispatch if there's any kind of alarm situation will have to be relocated to the new public safety building. So with that is an estimate that ICS wrote up of about $15,450, and I believe we added a 20% contingency in that as well, just to make sure that we had enough room to deal with any kind of issues that may arise in trying to move this equipment over. It's in your packets. It kind of goes through roughly the layout and design. Basically, it would be taking the radio system that currently exists and transmitting that to a fiber link system that then goes to the new public safety building. Included is the installation of a backup cellular system, and that's where you see that ICS is talking about antenna cables and antenna installation. We just have to come to terms with where we're going to have to do that installation work and how we're going to have to do that work. So that's kind of up in the air, and ICS has pointed that out in the bottom there that they're going to need additional money for that. So that's why we're looking to put this figure around 18,000, and we have a draft motion, but I also wanted to speak to the commission kind of about a couple different ways that we could acquire this money. Either, the most obvious is through the sewer assessment fund, but there's also the possibility that this could be eligible for the Build America funding. That's similar to the legislation that's for municipalities that they're taking advantage of. So I didn't know if there's any discussion that anyone wanted to go over, or what have you, but that's the gist of it.
I have,
Motion.
I
I'll
have
make a
a,
motion first.
Sure.
oh, you're gonna make a motion first?
Move to appropriate and transfer up to $18,000 from the sewer assessment fund to an account titled SCADA system equipment, public safety building for the installation of SCADA system equipment to be installed at the new police station to monitor and relay water and sewer alarms. In addition, should it be determined that this is to be eligible from Build America funding, seek reimbursement from this source and reimburse the sewer assessment fund.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave Murphy. Discussion two, one of the things tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen is meeting to talk about just the beginning of ways to utilize some of the funding that will be coming to the town. We aren't exactly sure how much, 1.8 million plus like maybe 2 or 3 million more, not to include what the Board of Education will get. And in there, it does talk about sewers. So this is something that will probably be asked, the Board of Selectmen will be asking at some point in time when we have better details on, on the project and program for needed funds such as this. So this is something that, at some point in time, you'll definitely want to ask the Board of Selectmen for when we get to that point where we're asking for people to actually come and say, we need money for. So anyway, continuing. Carol, you had a comment?
Yeah, I have one question. The Build America funding, what is, I'm not sure the best way to phrase the question, but what is the degree of risk of a rejection, or what is the likelihood of an acceptance? In other words, is that a well-funded fund, and
yeah, there's
you meet the
$1.9
criteria?
trillion in it, don't forget.
Oh,
That's-
is this part of the COVID-19? Is
This
that
is the COVID-19 money.
Okay, all right. And with that, I would like some serious consideration of a potential amendment to the resolution, that because this is all triggered by the new public safety complex and the need to centralize dispatch and how that's better for the town. And if for some reason the Build America funding doesn't happen, I would think it'd be more appropriate that half the cost be picked up by the town and the other half by the sewer assessment fund. In other words, if full reimbursement to the SAF from the Build America funding doesn't get authorized, then I would like to add that the town would reimburse the SAF in an amount equal to at least 1/2 of the remaining balance, because that seems only fair, that because this is being triggered by the public safety complex and the centralization of dispatch. It's
Carol, I have no idea
thoughts I
what kind
have.
of amended motion you want to put on there. I mean, that was about a 3-paragraph amended.
No, that's one
What
sentence.
exactly are you asking for?
I would say if full reimbursement to the SAF from this source, meaning this source being the Build America funding, is not authorized, the town shall reimburse the SAF in an amount equal to at least 1/2 of the remaining balance.
I don't know that you can require the town to do that, but okay, there's an amendment to the motion. Is there a second for the?
Well, first of all, isn't that a Board of Selectmen issue?
Yeah, it is, but she can make an amended motion, and she's offered one, so we have to vote on whether that has to be accepted or not. Is there Steve, since you moved it, you'd have to agree to amend your motion.
I mean, the town budgeted $500,000 towards the communications for the public safety complex.
If there's plenty of money in this sewer benefit assessment fund, I don't see why there's an issue.
Says what I'm saying, that's absolutely true. The town would not be helping us with anything if the funds come through from the Build America funding. It's only if the sewer assessment fund is not going to get that full reimbursement, then the balance would be split between sewer assessment and the town. And the town
Carol, you
did
can't
set
require-
aside $500,000 for communication hookup costs for that building.
Yeah, but Carol, you can't require the Water and Sewer Commission doesn't have the authority to require the town to do this.
Right.
I want to make a comment here. I think that communication is also going to have to do with our new water meters. I'm going to assume. Is that correct?
No, the new water meter system goes directly to a cell system that's already in place. This system is an analog radio system that then goes straight to dispatch from the Roxbury Road tank. So that there's two analog radios that communicate in order for those alarms to go to dispatch.
Is this state of the art right now, or is it?
Well, to be honest, no, but that is something that we're looking at. The radios that are out there right now are about 20 years old, but we would be upgrading them to the same frequency, same antennas, just different radios. But the infrastructure would remain the same.
Need to upgrade.
Yeah, and the question is, when they put together the public safety building and everything, they knew they were moving the dispatch center. That was part of the money. And this is part of the dispatch center, correct? How come this wasn't included in their budget when they were going to move the dispatch center to the new public safety building? Just, you know.
Exactly. That's my question.
I mean, when they did the public safety and they put it out for bid and they said it was going to cost X amount of dollars, it was to move the whole dispatch center, not just part of it, right? And this is part of the dispatch center, so this $20,000 should be in their budget to move, correct?
I don't know if this is really part, I mean, it's in a home and dispatch, but it's not the town's responsibility to do our SCADA. You know, they could say to leave it back, the SCADA back. I mean, this is a small cost to pay. I mean, the dispatch is not, the town is doing the sewer department a favor by monitoring their SCADA. So now we're going to ask the town that you have to pay to move a system that you're helping us monitor. It's probably, in my opinion, the amount that we're asking for is a small cost of actually piggybacking on the town's project that they're already doing something for us for. It's not, the SCADA doesn't help, the SCADA doesn't help the town, it helps sewer.
Okay, but if that's the case, that's the way you got to put it to us. Got to say, hey, listen, the town does us a favor by monitoring our SCADA when we're not there, and that we want them to continue doing it for free, and it's going to cost us 20 grand. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, that's, I mean, I wasn't the one who spoke, Ben spoke, but he's asking this to be paid on the sewer assessment fund, so that's essentially what he's saying.
Yeah, I apologize for that, but
No,
yes,
I mean,
dispatch does do the
understand.
service for free.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I'm okay with that, but I mean, it's got to be put to us as, hey, it's like anything else. Hey, they don't charge us for space at town hall. They don't, there's certain things, hey, one hand washes the other. I mean, and you got, put it out to us that way and say, hey, they could tell us no, and then we got to monitor ourselves, or we got to move it to Colton Road, or this is the best way. So.
My point well taken. That's what it is. They're doing us a favor by doing this. That's why we're asking it to come from sewer assessment.
Dave Jakes, you have your hand up?
Ben, the quote is for the 15,000, but you're asking for 18. Is the delta to cover those additional items that are foreseen to be required?
Yes. Yeah. ICS was never able to gain access to the new public safety building in time for him to get a more accurate quote. So he told me that this was a gross estimate. Obviously, we wouldn't spend money that we don't need to spend, but I didn't want to come back and have to ask for another 2,000 or 3,000 next month.
And you're just asking up to 18,000, not.
Correct.
Is this a time sensitive until
Yes.
you get a hard quote once they do have access?
This is very time sensitive. I was planning on giving him a PO tomorrow morning so that he could order the equipment, because I'm being told that dispatch is going to be in their new location as of July 1st.
So the building looks like it's going to be done a couple of months ahead of time, Dave. Steve?
Yeah, I agree with Joe Mingo. If there's an opportunity to upgrade during this, why don't we take advantage and upgrade the system too? If we need to.
I'm glad that you said that. I am looking at doing that with ICS right now, and I hope to have a quote for you in the next month or so.
So whatever we put in the new public safety will be current, more or less state of the art.
Correct.
Okay.
What I was also referring to was the analog radio system that we have out in the for the sewer pump stations. There are 8 older RTUs and radio systems that we're looking at upgrading. We're just trying to get a handle on the cost for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
I would just like to make a point in terms of the main function of SCADA right now is the alarm system, and the alarm system is again a warning that if it would be a public safety issue if some of these things that the alarm would trigger the alarm aren't addressed quickly. And maybe then you could explain like some of the things that would trigger an alarm for sewer.
Yeah, so typically, we have any kind of power failure would go through dispatch, or a high wet well level pump failure, that sort of thing. Or I believe we even have a couple on the water side that are for the high tank levels for the 3 tanks we have, but the vast majority is for the sewer side. So obviously, we would want to know as quickly as possible if there's any kind of pump failure that resulted in a high wet well or any kind of power failure. We'd like to go out and check that and make sure everything's okay.
And what impact would that have on the town as a whole if something went unrecognized for a prolonged period?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think it depends on the location. You could have a fairly small pump station that caused the backup into someone's home, or you could have a large problem like at our main station at Niantic, where we would have some pretty drastic consequences for failing to address it.
Thank you. So, my point is that there is a public safety issue. It's not strictly a sewer issue. It benefits the town to have an early warning system on these things, because the implications could be very severe.
No, Carol, no one was saying it wasn't important. It's just saying that it's, the town is doing this for the Water and Sewer Commission, which is why the money was being requested. Joe, you have your hand up.
One of the problems with sewage is environmental damage. If it get water into sound or sewage into sound or in the Niantic River, it would make the national news.
Okay. All right, we've discussed this quite a bit. There was an amendment that Carol offered. No one agreed to that change, so we have the original motion. We'll call that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, carries unanimously. Thank you, and thank you for the discussion on that as well. Okay, DOT I-95 interchange project.
Okay, I'll talk to this. In your packet, there's a proposal from Weston and Sampson for $28,000 to conduct engineering, design, and technical specifications to address the many conflicts, perceived conflicts out at the proposed I-95 interchange project. And DOT approached us requesting that we provide them with a preliminary engineering estimate. So we reached out to Weston and Sampson to do that. They've been sitting in on several of our meetings with DOT engineering staff. And we've begun to talk about the need to conduct test pits and to offer a design to be submitted to DOT to address the conflicts that we're likely to run up against. This is a pretty standard with DOT in them requesting this preliminary engineering estimate. It is 100% reimbursable by Connecticut DOT through the project. But as it works is we have to initially be responsible for spending the money and then ultimately seeking reimbursement after that. So I'm asking, and there is a motion that we authorize up to $28,000 from the sewer assessment fund. And the motion's there, someone can read that. I will say, in that $28,000 number, that could actually be just the tip of the iceberg for this project here. I mean, that is just looking at the engineering design, technical specs associated with relocation, either horizontal or vertical realignments of both sewer and water. We got the large bridge abutment that will conflict with the sewer that currently runs under I-95. There's going to be, they've addressed close to 60 conflicts on the water side, 59, 60 conflicts on the sewer side. We're looking at roughly 19 test pits for water, 28 sewer test pits. And so all this has to be figured out and then ultimately has to be built. All of that will ultimately be reimbursed by the state. So I guess at this point, I just wanted to caveat that 28,000 as being the initial, phase here to get the PE estimate into DOT for the design. We will be doing test pits in the near future, both Eversource Gas, Eversource Electric. You have the communication utility companies. You have us, water, sewer. All have conflicts and all have potential test pits or investigations that need to be done. So we're going to be putting a test pit plan together with the help of Weston and Sampson, and then we're going to be submitting that to DOT, and that will we'll figure out what is the best way to tackle to address some of this, to address all of this. So we may be back to the commission in some time forward for a subsequent request, but I thought we would just start here for tonight.
Okay, Dave Murphy, you have your hand up?
I make a motion to appropriate and transfer up to $28,000 from the sewer assessment fund to the account titled Engineering Design and Technical Specifications, Connecticut DOT Bridge number 00250 project for preparation of design drawings and technical specifications to resolve water and sewer conflicts associated with the Connecticut DOT I-95 interchange exit 74 project at Route 161 and replacement of bridge number 00250. At such time as may be appropriate, staff will submit documentation to the state for reimbursement of this work and the funds to be deposited to the sewer assessment fund.
I'll second.
Second. Seconded by Steve. Any discussion?
I have something I want to make.
Go, sir.
Unbelievably, this project is going to have some extreme impact. My understanding is that the state bought the mobile station in the motel.
Yes, they have. If they haven't closed on it, they'll be closing on it very shortly. But that doesn't mean the project starts immediately, though. Hey, Joe, we lost you again. We're not hearing you.
Whatever.
This is probably 4 or 5 years out because they're just starting design, design and all these studies and everything now.
I think a little sooner than that, though. I'm hearing less time than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, they're
originally
not-
it was 21, 22, but we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's 2023. I don't think, I mean, they're not just starting design, Dave. I think they're like at,
Well, they're at 60% right now, I
yeah,
believe.
60 is about right.
Yeah, because I think when you hit that 60% is when you start doing this type of, reaching out to the communities and so forth. Okay, any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Moving on, any updates on the meter replacement projects?
We put it on the agenda tonight, but I don't believe we have anything to add from the meeting we had or just a week ago on it.
Okay. Well, 1A and 1/6 treatment plant modifications and upgrades, any updates on those?
Yeah, I could speak to that.
Ben?
We're in the closing stages of the project now. Things are really starting to be coming together. All the piping is in place, and the fourth filter is obviously set. The roofing has been done, and the filters were just being filled. I believe they just backwashed the last 2 yesterday. For all the media, that's kind of a process that they go through, and it consists of a gravel layer, a green sand layer, and anthracite on the top. So that all has to be done in a certain procedure. So that was taking place probably about 2 weeks now. Dyson Electric has also been in doing a lot of the electrical work, running both VFDs are set and they're running the conduit to that. So things are coming together. We're looking now at possibly using coming to get up with another change order. We noticed during the construction phase that a lot of shingles were actually coming off of the existing roof during the construction project when we had windy days and things like that. We were finding areas of the roof are looking like they probably should be replaced. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna probably get a quote from RH White and see what it takes to replace the existing shingles on the roof there.
Any questions for Ben?
Just a general question, Kevin.
Sure.
And it just going back to the meter replacement project, is there any discussion about the Build America funding to help with that?
Carol, you're way ahead of it now. We don't know yet. One of the things we have to do is get some clarifications on whether or not that can be done. And I was going to address that a little bit under the chairman's report too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Ben?
Ben, have you given any consideration to, standing seam roof in lieu of shingles on that building?
No, I don't think we have. I know that shingles were called out for the addition, so I would think we would probably match what was done. It wasn't intended to replace the entire roof at the time during design, but it's something that we could look into if the commission would like that.
I don't know if there's any advantage to it. I was just, asking. I've seen a lot of utility type buildings with the standing seams now. But,
You're talking about a metal roof?
metal roof.
You would the vertical seams. Yeah.
If you're gonna have.
Because they make a steel shingle now as well, a metal shingle, which would more appropriately match, what was put in on the addition if that was something to consider, But I have a feeling we're keeping cost in mind. We may not end up going that route, but it might not be a bad idea to to get a reality check on it.
Joseph Mingo.
If you're gonna have a contractor doing partial of the roof out there, you might as well do the whole thing. You're certainly gonna save a lot of money.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Okay. Any other questions or comments in that area? Okay, we have our correspondence log, as everyone has seen, looked through. Moving on to Chairman's report. Niantic River Bridge is back open for now. It's going to close on the 25th for a few more days so they can finish it up. They've made a lot of progress. Talking to a couple of the businesses on the East Main Street area. Of course, Mr. Murphy and I remember when it was East Main Street, right, Dave? Now it's just Main Street. Mermaid Liquors, it was about $1,000 a day worth of business. Skippers as well. We talked to a lot of even the further up Main Street, but that seems to be recovering now. The American Rescue Plan, we're meeting tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen, to just begin discussing to see where we might look at going and some of the things that can be done. There's still not a lot of specificity because one of the, I'm looking right now at the handout, and it says to make, acceptable use of funds for local government under the American Rescue Plan, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband, so we talk about electronics too, infrastructure. But we don't know what necessary is right now. That's the part we have to find out. So I would think that some of the comments Carol made, Ben talking about, if this is this state of the art? No, well, maybe we can look at that. But what the Board of Selectmen's plan is to say, okay, well, once we have this determined, what is necessary to say, all right, to Water and Sewer Commissions, come with a proposal to us. Because right now we have $900,000 for the first 90 days. The second 90 days, we get another $900,000. And because there's no county form of government, London County got 53 million, but that gets getting broken up per capita. So we could get up to another 3 million for that. So there's a lot of money out there that our grandchildren are going to be paying for an eternity. But anyway, and the funds don't have to be spent in the next 60 days. The funds must be spent by the end of calendar year 2024. So we do have time. And, as we progress, that's when I think, Brad, Ben, Joe can start, looking at things that they'll know might be eligible to come back to, to request funding for. Because let's face it, there's going to be a lot of people in town looking for a piece of the pie. We want to look at some stuff too. Karen Chair, Soup Kitchen downtown, they'll probably have some requests, but, we have a long way to go. Anna, is that pretty much correct?
Yes, you've done a good job explaining how, what we know so far of how the program will work.
I tried to, the Kevin Siri country club, but apparently that doesn't quite fit for that. So anyway, any questions? Here again, that's all we know right now. Just stand by and keep reading it because we're waiting for clarifications. State Senator and State Rep Holly Cheeseman and Paul Formica are going to be coming to our meeting tomorrow night too to, give any updates they have found on that too. And Congressman Courtney's office is working very closely and trying to do their best to get us more and more information as it becomes available. So that's it from my report. Yes.
First, thank you for that update. And I'm sure I speak for the other members of the commission that this is the first I knew that water and sewer were specifically referenced in the legislation, and I find that very exciting actually, and hopeful because I think there are certainly needs, and I did with the budget process going on now to plan our budget for the next fiscal year. What's the timeline for just our normal budget planning process, and how might this relate?
Carol, I don't. Whoops. Hello?
No, I'm here.
But yeah, but I'm not. For some reason,
I hear you.
oh, there I am. I thought I lost everybody.
I can see it.
One of the things we're not sure of is that they don't really want it to use offset any normal operating expenses. So that's one of the areas we'll probably have to stay on it probably won't affect our budget. What it's looking for is to do things that, as I've mentioned, but we don't have those answers yet. We're trying to, like I said, as we find out, we'll let you know. I'm not sure whether we can use it for, they're not really looking for it to be used for, it specifies here, you can't use it for indirectly offsetting a tax cut, that type of stuff, so we have to get a little more clarification on that part.
Thank you.
Mr. Mingo.
Perhaps you may want to direct the staff to make a list of upgrades, which, things we want to upgrade. That sounds like something that this would pay for.
Yeah, well, it says right there, it says to make necessary investments. So that's necessary investments. I know what that means, but the people that wrote this haven't told us yet. So, but that's a good point, Joe.
Digital, that's an upgrade.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no further questions, moving on, we have the staff updates on water and sewer monthly reports. Any comments or questions on those?
Under your report there, just a quick question, Kevin.
Yes.
Is there anything about what's going on Old Lyme and anything about the sewer relocation of the sewers pump station, Brybrook sewer pump station into Rocky Neck or whatever?
I'd have to defer to Brad or Ben on that one because I don't have any information on that. Nothing up to date anyway.
Well, on the Brybrook pump station, we don't have anything else to report other than the next step is to meet with DEEP and present the alternatives analysis that was done. And we just got to get a meeting together and try to move off the dime with it at this point.
Okay, Dave, we'll put that down for a future agenda item. So thank you for bringing that up.
I have
Yeah.
Dave, are you still talking, Dave? Because Carol wanted to.
No, I'm not talking. I'm just writing it down under the thing about a future agenda item.
Okay, Carol.
The two breaks reported on the water report, the shear breaks at Attawan Road and Sleepy Hollow Road. Is there any, what a contributing factor might be? Is it aging of the system? Was there something unusual going on weather-wise, or?
Well, when water main breaks just pretty much occur on a regular basis, it's just a way of life as far as old cast iron piping goes. I think we've kind of had this conversation before over the years, either due to poor installation or settling. Many times these breaks occur where the pipe sits on an unstable surface or on a rock, and you get a shear break at that stress or contact point. It's just a pretty commonality as far as it goes. They usually are more weather related. I mean, a lot of this occurs with shifting of the ground with the cold and warm weather. So you typically get it in the winter and the transition from winter to spring and rain events and freeze and thaw.
Okay, so it's just kind of a fact of life of a.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
No one's immune from it.
And the other question I have is, does Ty and Bond have any preliminary feedback yet on the odor taste issue, or is it still too early in the process?
Well, still too early in the process. We just did a wide range of sampling that they suggested we do, and those results came back all negative. So they're looking at that data and they're doing some modeling at this point. But there's nothing really significant to report.
Thank you.
On the water, I'm just looking at New London. You think we're going to get there?
It's going to be a challenge this year, I will tell you. I think Ben would agree. With well 1A being down, We had well 2A offline for surging. It's just been admittedly a real challenge this year, and we are behind schedule.
Okay, moving on to future agenda items. One thing we'll put down is the American Rescue Plan and possible water projects. We'll make sure that pops up. And definitely for next month, we should hope to have some clarification on what a necessary is and maybe then some ideas. So take care of that then. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did you write down the, about the Brybrook pump station?
Yes.
Yeah, I have that written down. I'll be talking to Weston and Sampson, and we'll see if we can get a meeting together with DEP, our contact over there, and see where we're going. So we'll see if we can get that before next meeting, actually.
I never know. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Aye.
long meeting, but thank you very much, everyone. Have a safe and enjoy
All right.
with the better
Hey.
weather coming.
Have a nice Easter.